Yes, now I've got to praise you again, Douglas, because you have written a fantastic column for morons, for the college kids cosplaying being part of some sort of a terror cell on campus, chanting for intifada. You've been very good to educate them about what precisely an intifada means, but I wonder, Douglas, whether they actually know what it means. They are aware of its full meaning and they're chanting it anyway. Many of them have said in recent months, decolonisation by any means necessary.
It's extraordinary, isn't it, Rita? I mean, you effectively see once again something you and I have talked about in a number of contexts, which is people who must either be sinister or silly. The sinister ones know what they're talking about when they chant for intifada. The silly ones are chanting a slogan they clearly don't understand. So let me speak to the second ones for a moment, as I tried to in this article. If you call for intifada, you should know what an intifada is. There was an intifada when I was growing up in the late 90s. There was one in the earlier 90s. But the second intifada included suicide bombings against Israelis of the most gruesome type. I mentioned in that piece the 2001 bombing of the Dolphinarium nightclub in Tel Aviv, where a Palestinian suicide bomber detonated by a group of young women trying to get into the club. These women are the same age, were the same age as these women chanting for intifada now at Columbia and in LA and in other reprehensible educational institutions in the US. I wonder if these students know that a suicide bomber went into the cafeteria of a university in Jerusalem in that same period and blew up and murdered, among other things, American students who were trying to have a cup of coffee in the middle of their studies. I wonder if these disgusting and ignorant kids at American universities have any idea that that's what they're calling for. And if they do, then they are morally lost to an extent that they probably could never come back from. But if they're just ignorant, which I really, really hope they are, I hope that, to steal one of the phrases they're so keen on using themselves, they do the work and realize what the words they chant actually mean.
Well, that's the question, and I do really worry that so many of them do have an understanding of what they're chanting for, because some of the justifications, the mad rationalizations we've heard in recent months send a chill up your spine. And we're seeing some craziness also from media folk who should know better. Even much of the left sees the absurdity of the LGBT groups for Palestine. I mean, they understand how ludicrous that is, but apparently that's lost on the Washington Post's Taylor Lorenz.
The people in these marginalized groups, obviously, they are fighting for Palestine, right, for the Palestinians and for what's happening in Gaza. But yet, in Gaza, they would not have any freedom. You know,
they don't have freedoms in Texas and Florida. Does that mean?
But they don't. But I understand that. But Taylor.
Texas?
Oh my gosh, Douglas, I don't know exactly what rights gay people don't have in Texas and Florida, but even Don Lemon had to step in to bring some sanity to that discussion.
Taylor Lorenz is a complete airhead, know nothing. She's not a journalist, never has been. And unfortunately, the Washington Post has given her a berth of a kind where she does totally unimportant work and sort of just gibbers away about obsessions of her own. But you know, what she just said there is again a demonstration of a completely lost person, a morally lost person. She's so desperate to make her points such as she can about the Palestinians or Gaza that she honestly wants to not just deny what is happening in Gaza and in the Palestinian areas towards gay people and indeed all minorities. she has to find a way to get away from that unfortunate problem that the people she's essentially on the side of, Hamas, she's downplaying what they do, that they throw gay people off buildings and so on. She's downplaying that by saying, well, it's the same in Texas. You know, I'm pretty sure, I've been a fair amount to Texas. I love the great state of Texas. I'm pretty sure you can't just throw gays off buildings there. And I'm certain that if anyone tried it, they would be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And because actually also throwing people off buildings is, as a whole, in its entirety, illegal in the state of Texas. And not just the gays, you can't throw anyone off a building in Texas. So if Taylor Lorenz honestly wants to defend her apparently friends in Hamas to such an extent, she should realize that she should really find a new way of doing so, because all she's done here is tried to ignore the crimes of Hamas and actually smear the state of Texas, among others. And so, well, anyway, good luck to her with whatever grift she's got coming next. But it's a great shame because the Washington Post used to be a fine paper and used to employ, and still does employ, some very good journalists. So they must be so embarrassed to have Lorenz among their midst.